faithfulness. You see, Noah has been faithful. He obeyed God when the world mocked. He built an ark when no one else believed. He endured the flood and came through the other side. As we covered a couple weeks ago, he was that righteous remnant amidst a corrupt generation. That was Noah. Let's remember who we're talking about here. This is the one man that found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Now he's entered this new world, and what do we see? What is the first thing we see? We see this same Noah, this preacher of righteousness, and what do we see? We see him lying passed out drunk in a tent naked. That should teach us something. There's a lesson to be learned here if our eyes are open, if our ears are listening. What we see here is we see Noah naked and ashamed. This is a shocking picture, but it's one that the Scripture does not shy away from. Why? Why would God even give us this detail? Why would God give us this story about this righteous man? Well, it's because of this. The Bible does not present us flawless heroes, except for one. It presents us real fallen people whom God chose to use. You see, this is my first point on your outline. No one is above failure. No one. Noah's story reminds us of a truth that we often forget. Even the godliest among us are not immune to failure. Just because you've walked with God in the past, it does not mean that you're beyond stumbling today. Very famous verse, 1 Corinthians 10:12. Everybody should memorize this verse. Therefore, let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. I stand before you today as a pastor, and I am not above failure. Noah had stood for God in a wicked generation. Yet here, in a moment of carelessness, he stumbles. The battle is never over on this side of heaven. We need to understand that the battle is never over on this side of heaven. Some of the greatest failures in Scripture often come after our greatest victories. Now, there's other examples of this in Scripture. Think about Moses, the deliverer of Israel, struck the rock in anger instead of speaking to it, and it cost him entry into the promised land. Think about David. David's described as a man after God's own heart. And one of the most famous stories that we get of him is committing adultery with Bathsheba. What about Peter? Oh, Peter, that bold disciple. That one that's going to go to the death with Jesus, denied Jesus 3 times after he pledged to die with him. You see, Noah's sin reminds us that no matter how strong our faith, we must remain watchful, humble, and dependent on the Lord. Past obedience is not a guarantee of future faithfulness. We need to guard our hearts every single day.